got certain capabilities and preset channels and things of that nature. And being that it's automated, it always has a chance of failing too.
They were kind of warmer in here too.
All right, we're good to go.
Good evening and welcome to this session of the City of North Pole City Council regular meeting, December 12th, 2022 in City Hall chambers, also being recorded on YouTube and on Facebook. And the time is 7:03. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Mr. Keller,
Here.
Mrs. Clack, Mr. Kramer,
Here.
Mr. Skips,
Here.
Mrs. Welch, here, Mr. Jacobson,
He's excused.
Mayor Welch.
Here. Thank you. And then if we'll please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for invocation.
You may bow your head and pray with me if you like. Lord, we come before you tonight as a city council, working for this city, working for the citizens of this city. We ask that you keep our first responders, our police and our firefighters, and all our workers in the city in your hands, safe and happy and healthy. We ask that all those right now in our community who are dealing with health issues and with all the stuff that's going around, we ask that you keep them safe and sound in your hands also. Finally, we ask that we make the decisions that are the best for our city here tonight. And we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
And for special intentions for the mayor of the Denali Borough, Clay Walker, that he would get an eye of favor for recovery. He was not able to participate at the Alaska Conference of Mayors or the AML because of severe pneumonia, but he actually came there and saw us only via, what do you call that? Zoom, by Zoom, but he is back home, but he's having a hard time recovering. So keep Clay Walker in your prayers. Thank you.
Amen.
Let's have a seat. So we'll go on now to an action item, item 4, the approval of the agenda found on pages 1 and 2.
Mr. Mayor, move to approve the agenda.
There's a motion to approve the agenda,
Second, Skips.
seconded by Skips. Any discussion?
Move to amend.
State your amendment.
Move to consent items on old business B and under new business, item B, E, and F.
Second, Skips.
So we have a motion by Welch to approve under old business, item B, and under new business, B, E, and F, seconded by Skips. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Madam Clerk, call the question.
Mrs. Clack, Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mrs. Welch,
Yes.
Mr. Skips,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes. Does anyone wish to change their vote? I see no changes, so the amendment passes. Now, on the amended agenda,
Mrs. Welch,
Yes.
Mr. Skips,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mrs. Clack, Mr. Mayor.
yes? Anyone wish to change their vote? Seeing none? Okay, the amendment, the amended motion now has passed for the agenda. Thank you. Now for the approval of the minutes from the 11/21 meeting. You'll find those minutes on pages 3 through 10.
Move to approve the minutes.
There's a motion by Welch to approve the minutes, seconded by Clack. Any discussion on the minutes? Any corrections? I see none. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mr. Skips,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mrs. Clack,
Yes.
Mrs. Welch,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes. Anyone change the vote? None. Congratulations. The minutes are now approved from 11/21 as recorded by the clerk. We'll move on to communications from the mayor. I'd like to think that since we met last, that things would have settled down, but they really kept me on the run, especially 8 days in a row. But I'll go through them as fast as I can, but giving you a pretty good story about what had to be done. So I was very delighted on Saturday, December 3rd, to participate in the gift, which was the community Christmas event on East 8th Avenue here in North Pole, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I was happy because there we got to see not only the live music, the tree festival, the kids' crafts, the Christ Gallery. They made blankets for the North Pole Fire Department, as well as Salcha and Delta and Toke Fire Departments. They had stuffed, they did domestic violence sacks for North Pole Police Department and Delta, as well as the Alaska State Troopers. And someone said they thought that I was going to sing. I said, if you see me singing, there's a better chance Ben Crosby's going to come back and do a rendition of White Christmas. So anyway, that was pretty nice to be able to go to that. Most important thing that I can say that I participated in was the Conference of Mayors and the Alaska Municipal League. I left here Sunday at 5:30 in the afternoon. I could not overnight in Healy because the wind was greater than 60 miles per hour. And it was more than a football field from the back of the Totem Cafe to the Totem Inn. And I don't think I made 20 steps. And the wind got the better part of me. And I thought it'd break the hinges on the door of my truck. And could not get to the inn itself. And so we continued until we got to, of all places, felt like Lake Wobegon, but we were down at Lake Lucille at the Best Western at 1:23 in the morning. That's how long it took us to get to Wasilla. But we did get to the Conference of Mayors ahead of all the storm. At the time that we were there, just the first 2 days, there were more than 24 inches of snow that hit Anchorage. And I'll let, later on in his speech, I'll let our Director of City Services tell us what his take was on their snow issues down there. But they've got the same problems. They don't have enough people to remove all the snow at the Alaska municipality. They don't have enough equipment, not enough workers, operators, whatever. And they also depend a lot on the state DOT to help them out. And sometimes that's a lot to depend upon. But the Conference of Mayors was 2 days. It started 5:30 Monday evening, and it lasted all through Tuesday. It was not as robust as my memories in the past. I have seen as many as 57 mayors. This year, there were 24. And I did mention Mayor Clay Walker, but he could not join us because of his illness. Even though he was in the Marriott, less than a half mile away, he could never join us. We spent more than an hour just on one resolution about bycatch that the city of Homer wanted us to adopt as a conference of mayors. Just debating that one resolution took more than an hour. So it was a whole different setup from what I'm used to. But then the AML started on Wednesday, the Alaska Municipal League, and I attended all of that. There were over 600 municipal officials. There were also many vendors. I think somewhere close to 30 vendors were there from all different walks. And I was very delighted to have our former Lieutenant Governor, B. Treadwell, invite me on Thursday, December 8th, to a private organization for lunch where I got a head start on the legislature for the fire department, the police department, the water department, all these departments that I got to talk with the incoming Senate Finance Chair, Bill Wachowski, and I got to speak to Senator Johnson. They're brand new coming in. And so I got a chance and a roundtable to speak with each of them about our legislative priorities. So we've got a head start. And it's not a bad thing to start with the Senate Finance Chair. I have to tell you that. So he knows I'm coming and he knows what it is we're looking for. I was very happy to be able to participate in that. There were many venues at that whole conference for those 3 days. And the ones that stand out the most to me, we had Matt Lehrer take us through an exercise about whether we're an organization or a city or a community that practices civility. As a matter of fact, I don't know if Mr. Danny Wallace saw an email back from him with the survey results, but you're in that picture and so am I sitting at the table there. But it turns out that everyone would like to think that we're more civil than the next community, but we'll have to go through that. And he's made an offer to us, if ever, that if we want him to come to talk to us or teach us through his coursework, we can always do that at no cost at this juncture. There was also the presentations that I have participated in. So most every morning started at 7:30 in the morning. And I think I got out almost every day a little bit after 5 o'clock. So some of those were 12-hour days. They got to be kind of long. And the bottom deal was to learn about the Alaska Municipal League Investment Pool. Starting in the new year, they'll have a second strategy that's a little more risky, but your capital will always be preserved. The risk is if you try to maybe get a better return, you might not get it, but you'll still have your capital intact. So that's important. Right now, it's almost 3% return, which is more than the 2.5% that I'm conservatively progging for us to have in the upcoming year. But we met with many vendors. I talked to Rogers and Altman to be able to try to get our accounting staff some extra help, because right now they can't go to Alliance Accounting. There's a conflict. Alliance Accounting has someone on their team that we used to go to, that now that they're part of our auditing team, we can't go to them anymore. So Rogers and Altman from Anchorage may very well help us with that. And I was able to talk to Tyler. So I talked to Sign Solutions as well. And from right here, Pan Alaska, the Arctic Light structural module system was on display, and that caught a lot of the people's attention. And I'll probably put that up in the chambers next week, and if not next week, for January. In the upcoming few days here, I know that on December the 15th is a holiday party at Eielson. How am I going to be there? I don't know, but I'm supposed to be there at 6:30. That's pretty much that. I have a lot of medical things that are lined up between the 15th of December and December 22nd. We'll see how those fall through. And I believe our auditor wants to come out and talk with us. I'm going to try to get that done. And Madam Tricia, you said he's not available on Wednesday. So I'll see if he can come out to see us tomorrow, because I'm gone on Thursday and Friday for medical reasons. So, and the next thing I will tell you is that we changed the schedule for the January 1st meeting to January 4th, which is a Wednesday. It would have been January 3rd, but I was informed that the Pacific Air Force commander is coming from Pearl Harbor to meet with us. Those of us on the Civilian Advisory Board, as part of the Honorary Wing Commanders Program, are going to be required to be out there on Wednesday, or actually Tuesday, January the 3rd. We'll be required to be at Eielson, and we already have 2 members of the council to be absent. So with my absence and my wife's absence, we wouldn't have had a quorum. So we moved the meeting to Wednesday, January the 4th. And that's the best I can tell you right now. Thank you for that. And I'll go and ask, are there any questions of the mayor? And I see no questions of the mayor. So we go to item 8, communications from department heads. Well, I've got two fire chiefs here, so you're going to flip a coin. Who's going to come up and speak? Chief Heineken, hi. You look nice tonight. What's the occasion, sir?
Yeah, good evening, everybody, Mr. Mayor. So yeah, I had the distinct honor to attend the first part of the Fairbanks City Council meeting, and I was able to actually pin my old captain's bugles to my son's collar. So a great event I just came from. I didn't know how long that was going to take me, so I want to thank Chief Chambers for being here in my absence to cover for me until I got here. Luckily, they did that right at the very beginning of the council meeting, so I was able to get out of there pretty quick. So for the fire department, just a couple things to go over. So we have received the new Ford Explorer that we had ordered back in February. There was obviously delays like everything else you order nowadays, but it did get to town. We had it into Auto Trim Design this morning where they've started the upfit on that. And then they had to order a few things for the center console package to install the final radios. But it's good to get that finally in town, and we'll put it partially into service this week and then fully into service probably later in January when the entire radio package is put into it. I had the honor of attending the gift also that the mayor had spoke about. They had asked us to attend and receive the blankets that they gave us, and wow, what an event that was. I know Councilmember Keller was there. Councilmember Jacobson was there. I'd heard the mayor was there, but he was there and gone before I was there. Yeah, what a community event. This was people from everywhere from Delta Junction to Fairbanks that came together as a kind of a service project to put these blankets together and support us as emergency responders. So like the mayor said, it wasn't just for North Pole Fire Department. The North Pole Police Department received items. Fire departments from Delta all the way to North Pole received these blankets that we'll be able to give to people in emergencies, whether it's medical emergency, fire emergency, whatever, cold emergency. So really nice gift. They really did a great job. So each year, as most of you know, we do a recruit academy that's a partnership with our neighboring fire department, North Star Volunteer Fire Department, and mostly CTC, the community college. Most of the students were actually CTC students that pay full tuition to take this class. And the class is taught here at North Pole and North Star. And then Saturday, the December 3rd, they actually did their state testing for their Firefighter 1 certificate. So we had 22 students that day while we were in attendance at the gift. There was a crowd that Chief Chambers managed over at the fire station. The parking lot was full. It'd have been interesting to get fire apparatus in and out. I think it was so crowded, but a really good event. They all tested, they all did well. So I'm really proud of our department and our partnership with those two organizations that continue. The last thing I have is, of course, with Christmas coming, our annual Christmas caroling truck is fully prepped. We're going to do the finishing touches on it tomorrow with A shift coming on to make sure the sound system's up to par and make sure we get the volume levels correct this year. Last year, we kind of had a problem. It was a little loud. So we're going to make sure we try to get that fine tuned. But we do every year. It's been an annual event for at least 40 years to take one of the fire trucks and decorate it and drive every city street. We started on the 15th of December. So at 6:30 p.m. every night from the 15th to the 25th, that truck will roll out the door. We do the same course every night. That way the residents can kind of predict about what time they come to their neighborhood. So you don't have to guess and miss. We get a lot of phone calls if somebody missed it that night, saying, can you come back through? The kids missed it. So we try to stay pretty routine there. So we're excited to have that coming up. And with that, I can take any questions.
With the music, I mean, I liked it a little loud because the back streets, I kind of know you're coming up. So it's enough time to gather all the kids and, you know, if they want to go outside, they can kind of bundle up and go, you know, versus, oh crap, they're going, look out the window real quick, you know, so. Yeah,
so last year, I think we finally ended with something pretty decent to where you could hear us coming, but it wasn't so overwhelming that we did have people that were angry. There's no doubt it was too loud. And it was a new speaker system last year, and we had them faced off the back of the squad. Well, the driver inside the cab really wasn't getting that volume that everybody behind it was. So it took us a little while. So hopefully we can find that. So we'll absolutely welcome any feedback. That first or second night, if you didn't hear it or if it was too loud, feel free to give me a call. We'll fine tune it.
I have a question. How many years has your son been in the fire service?
Oh, he's been in the fire service, I think 8 years. I believe 8 years.
When you came to us as a captain in February 2006, how many years had you been on?
I had been in the fire service since I started in 1988 at 14 years old.
Okay.
So, yeah, and I came here in 06 hired directly as a captain at
As a
that time.
captain. Where'd
Yeah.
you come from?
I came from North Star, our
Yeah.
neighboring fire department.
I remember shaking
So,
your hands.
yeah.
I was a rookie. I remember that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Any other questions for Chief? Ms. Clack?
The statement, congratulations.
Yes, thank you very much. I am very proud of both of my sons. Both of my sons followed my footsteps. They're both now captains. My younger son actually became a captain earlier this summer when he took a job with University Fire Department. So amazing young men doing great things. I'm very proud of them.
Thank you for teaching them well. Anyone else? Thank you, Chief.
Welcome.
And thank you, Chief Chambers, for filling in earlier in the meeting of the whole. Chief Dutra, how about you next?
So just got back from Anchorage for the rest, I guess the whole half the state was in Anchorage, but we did learn a lot. It was a lot of good leadership training and a program about is actually called Why Did You Pull Me Over? It's about started in San Jose, I believe, and it talks about police mingling with the community, a lot of disenfranchised youth and gangs and things like that. It was a great program that's been effective in this area, and it's kind of taken it nationwide. It's very interesting. A lot of lessons learned there about how you can work out your differences between what the community and those you stop believe and what you believe. So what you're trained to do and what they live every day and how they view the police. And it was a very interesting class and a course, and it's a lot to bring back. And I do have to admit, I answered several questions right, got a free hat, so it's pretty cool. Anyway, we'll implement a lot of that, share that with our officers, and hopefully bring him up for what we call the crime conference in 2024 here for Alaska Police Officers Association, which I'm a board member, so I will help try to bring him up as a trainer, because I thought it was a very good message to teach young officers about their community and how they can learn from each other. So pretty cool stuff. I did attend the annual ACOT meeting. I was voted again as the president of the statewide Chiefs Association, so I'm honored and appreciate that those votes. I also attended the Alaska Police Standards Council meeting, which again was a pretty good event. A lot of behind the scenes stuff, but there were some discussions on new regulations about doing suspensions of police certificates and a few other things, but that was the big one about, so if someone does something bad, if we say, yeah, we want to revoke the certificate or suspend it, it allows the council to be able to suspend it so they can't do police work while it's going through the process of being revoked, like taken away. So the council would have to then decide whether it's worthy of that. And so currently, most states have the authority to suspend a police certificate, but Alaska does not. And we can revoke it, or that's it. I mean, we don't have another option. And there's, so someone like is lacking police training or needs to go through something that the state mandates and they haven't done it, there's at least an enforcement mechanism there that the Standards Council can go say, stop. You can't be a police officer till you go get your first aid, or something like that. Because if they just refuse to do it, there's no way to stop that agency from just allowing officers to not get training. So pretty cool. It was part of the systemic changes they brought back a couple years ago. It disappeared. I had sent an email and said, hey, let's get this back. And they brought it back. So I'm pretty cool. I'm pretty excited about that. Tonight, I taught Alice at the Tanana Middle School, excellent training, about 25 educators and staff, very well received, good stuff. Shop with the Cop is coming this weekend. 5 of us participating in that amazing event. If you're not familiar, it's with the officers get to go out and shop with disadvantaged youth in the area. Most of them from our local schools, handpicked, or they applied to participate. It's a great way for us to interact with the community, and it gives those kids great memories along with us. I mean, it's just every year is an amazing task, and I appreciate it every time I do it. So we did have an officer leave last week to return to Utah for personal reasons, so we're down another one. That puts us down 2. We are slated to have 3 more leave in the next 5 months, and this is a huge problem. And I did talk to a lot of chiefs in Anchorage, and it is not just a problem we face; it's a problem everybody faces. But we plan to come to the council in the next couple council meetings or with a presentation about bringing the council involved in why we have a police department. That's kind of the theme is why are we in this? What do we want? What is our future? What do we expect the future of our police department to look like? Do we want to have staff here that want to be here, and why are they here? So we can change that why, and it's a pretty interesting collection of thoughts and ideas that we put together that we pulled out of this training. We pulled out of other stuff we were working on, trying to bring it into a collective idea on the ways to stop this from happening here. That's happening in a lot of places. There are some success stories across the country that are bringing people in and keeping them. And we wanted to figure out what that is. And we think we have a good idea about some tools that we can hopefully implement with the council's approval that could put us in that category where people want to come work for us and not use this as a training ground and leave, that kind of thing. So stay tuned for that. They are next thing too, we got about $18,000 in for it. We believe it's asset forfeiture. Tricia and I are going to confirm that tomorrow, but we're pretty sure that's what it's for. But that's pretty cool. Haven't had any of that money in a long time. And we did receive the gifts also from the LDS Church. We had some officers over there for those blankets and such. So we were very thankful for that. So that's all I got.
So Chief, I would imagine when you're down there with all the different people in the Peace Officers Association, you'll probably have the same generic problems, then you probably identify with that, correct?
Yes.
As far as recruitment, retention, because there was a lot of discussion from us as mayors and as municipal officials at the AML portion about what our PERS is not doing. And this whole idea of having a 5th tier, but now they're starting to realize it's not just enough to have it only for first responders. They're going to have it for everyone. The state is in trouble over that. So expect that as mayor that would be, it's not listed as a legislative priority, enumerated. You better believe I'll be talking about it, and more than just talking about it, because I did around the table on last Thursday when Meade Treadwell took me into a private meeting. You know, let them know we cannot sustain like this as a state anymore. So I hope you know that I'm very much aware of that. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Any questions or concerns, Chief? Yes.
I have a question. Do we have an update on the guy that had the vehicles in his yard? Did he get those vehicles out of there?
No further information other than the hearing that the city attorney was at, and that he pledged to comply with council's request. I just got back on. Today was my first day back, and so I haven't heard anything yet, but I can follow up on that and get you an answer at the next meeting.
I have a question. Did the borough, school borough, do they let you guys have access to the cameras like you were talking about? Or
Haven't heard from him yet.
Okay.
We're going to ring that bell hopefully and try to reach out to him again and see what the holdup is. So
Ms. Welch has a hand up.
Well, just congratulations on your re-election.
Thank you.
Know you're doing good for our city by being involved in that. And to Mr. Deshawn over there, I drove by that place yesterday and looked over there. There's nothing in the front yard. They still have that ugly fence stuff, but I don't know if that was part of being addressed to it. But there were no vehicles, none at all. So I guess they were gone for the day. But I haven't seen any of the big vehicles like the big Hummer stretch limousine and all that. It's all gone.
And I have a question. Did you happen to go by the table and see these particular items from the security aspect?
I don't think I was at the same event
As
you
myself?
folks were, yeah.
But I bought this back in case. It was talking about 12 to the K security. And then what we had going on in the schools for active shooting and how to respond. I found that quite interesting. So I thought I'd bring that back and share it with you guys. So I did bring those back from the email. I found it quite interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to say this, Chief, when I called you last week from AML, because I had asked you to get in touch with one of our citizens, did he come out and do the video he wanted to do?
Yes.
Yeah, seems like sometimes there's a disconnect with when, say, if you're gone and the lieutenant's gone, they should be able to have someone that could make a decision. Should they not be able to? So I wouldn't have had to have bothered you.
Oh, that was a hiccup, I think, between the three of us. I passed on to lieutenant passed it to sergeant, but I don't know what happened there. It
Let's
worked
see
the way it was supposed to, but it just, for some reason, he didn't get the message, and I don't know why. I don't know the answer to that.
Because also in talking to that, someone came here from Alaska Universal Productions this weekend, and they were not able to get in. They had to wait almost an hour. They would walk next door and pick up the phone and call dispatch, and it would take an hour for someone to get here. So I don't know why there's that disconnect.
Sometimes there's only one person on. And
Yeah.
They might be doing something
And
else.
he was out on call. So,
Yeah.
so I don't know how we get around it. But thank you for bringing me up to speed on the officer who left December 2nd, because that was the first I heard about it was December 8th. But it was only because I was calling you saying, how's it going today? And I guess that was foremost in your mind, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, everybody was gone, everybody was busy. It was, so.
Yeah, so I appreciate you sharing that with me. Thank you very much. Okay, who's next? Ms. Tricia, would you like to go next, please?
Good evening, everyone. I too was, myself and Michelle were down at a conference. Our part of the conference was called GFOA, which is Alaska Government Finance Officers Association, and we had quite a few really good informative speakers. And one that kind of, to follow up what one of the mayor's comments is, the Rogers and Altman talked about in an outbreak session about auditing tips and things to help prepare yourself for the audit. And I really did feel like she would be a good fit for us to work with. I mean, I don't know if it will be the person that spoke or somebody else in their office, but I had a real positive interaction with them. I also got to talk with the Chief Financial Officer Fairbanks, and they have the same auditing firm as we do, and they also have had some issues as well.
Yes.
So it's always good to go be with your peers, the things that people that do the same job you do, and find out your problems are also some of their problems. So, and I did put that fiscal note together for the fire department, but I was planning on doing a much larger one with a year cleanup, and I had part of it finished, and then I was planning on doing the rest of it kind of on the road, and it wasn't working out so well. So at least I got this one going, and you'll have another one next time to kind of clean up 2022.
So I want you to elaborate. Back in the committee of the whole about an hour ago, I was mentioning about how we used to be able to use someone that was from Cook and Hagenberg,
Right.
Kathleen Thompson, and
Right.
now that they merged with Alliance Accounting, you can't use her anymore. Can you elaborate what that means to you? To have someone like from Altman and Rogers or whatever? Tell her.
Oh, sure. There,
Yeah.
during the year, there's questions that come up. There's new Gatsby rules out there that may or may not pertain to us. And it's just nice that you can pick up the phone and have a conversation with somebody that's, can elaborate more. The auditors don't want us to, I mean, we can ask them questions, but at some point it becomes a conflict of their audit, and they like to keep it separate. Also, there is some communication skills that maybe their wording is different than our wording. And at the end of the last few audits, they said everything looks good, but then they had a they had an issue, but they didn't explain what the issue was. And I think the mayor's had similar frustrations, and it really could just be a communication thing, but we need to sit down and say, hey, we need some more information from you, or we need somebody to be a go-between so we can understand what you are trying to tell us.
So to let you know, Altman and Rogers has expanded their staff, and they are moving more up in this area too. So
Mhm.
just to let you know that
Right,
that's one of the things I discussed with them when I had them as a vendor out in
Right.
the hallway there. So it
right.
took time.
Yeah, I think they're actually won the bid to do the Fairbanks North Star Borough audit
Good.
from what I understood.
They did.
Yeah.
Sure did. So that's good that they'll be up this way. Any questions or concerns for Ms. Fogarty? Thank you, Tricia.
Uh-huh.
Last but not least, Danny, come on up, sir.
As the mayor mentioned, we were at the conference. He gave a good overview of many of the things that we did. And for me, this was a good introduction to overarching discussions between Alaska leaders. I also spent a lot of time absorbing information on the new legislature. Again, the Alaska legislature politics and the organization and the issues between the Senate and the House. Senate seems to be organized, House is still getting their stuff together. Those types of things were very good for me just as a city staff worker in understanding some of the higher wheels that turn. We survived, Anchorage's snowmageddon. They 24 inches in a very short amount of time. They do deal with some of the same things we do as far as dealing with DOT, shortage of workers, shortage of equipment. Although I'll say that, and I'll talk a little bit in the PW section. I'll say that we don't have some of the same challenges that they do, at least not so far this year. Although there is plenty of time. But I'll talk a little bit about city service areas for the building department. We finished the building inspection contracts, and we're going to get those before the mayor to review and sign those. But the bottom line on the building side, we have two very good, solid building inspectors that work for the city that actually do very, very good work. We're very lucky to have those folks, and we do have a plan for next year for those folks. We've also, in the building department, we've been successful in integrating our new part-time worker, Teresa Parsons, into building and billing and utility billing and other operations. And this has allowed our utility accounting specialist, Melanie Swanson, to begin focusing on the utilities accounting tasks, which again helps with our auditing, but also helps make sure that we're accountable for the things that we do on the utility side. For public works, snow plowing continues to go well. And tonight at 2 a.m., Hubbard Construction, which is who we contract with to do the city, they'll be out and about plowing starting at 2. They try to get all the critical areas early to try to make sure that there's access. We don't do the school parking lots, but making sure there's access to that area along those roads are ready for school when it starts, and some of the other key areas. It takes us about 16 to 20 hours to get the entire city plowed. So sometime tomorrow, you should see, between tomorrow and the next day, you should see the entire city plowed again. This will be our 4th plowing mayor of the year.
I keep score. You know that, right?
Yeah, I had to check with Cody on that. But we've also been in discussions with DOT on their operations. Right before this meeting, I got a text from them saying that they were going to plow their priority 1 areas within North Pole, and that's Badger, St. Nicholas Lane, or I'm sorry, Santa Claus Lane, and some of the other priority 1 things that they routinely do. So I think in the next day or two, you'll see all of the North Pole area done, at least the priority 1. Some of the secondary priorities, which include the Old Rich, which include St. Nicholas, that maybe a couple more days before they get back to that. And I did talk to them about the intersection of St. Nicholas and 5th Avenue, that needed attention, and they said they would try to get to that. So, but again, there is a lot of good crosstalk, and we've also tried to keep other folks, the police and fire department, informed of when plowing operations are going on. Again, just so for situational awareness for everyone. Finally, utilities, they continue to work behind the scenes to ensure clean water and sewer, and a lot of stuff's going on that is under, again, that is not seen by the public, is not seen by all of us. We just turn on our water or we flush our toilets and we expect them to work. There are no significant issues, but it's because those guys are on top of what they do. But we did have one employee, Mr. Skips, got recognized by a customer for excellent customer service. We got a call about that. And again, that's just very indicative of all the folks that work for the utilities department. But otherwise, things are going very well for city services, and I'll take any questions you might have.
That was Laffey that did such a great job. And that resident has lived here more than 40 years. So I did talk with her that night from the hotel. And
Oh.
she said that she brags quite a bit to people that she would not get that kind of attention or special service like Laffey provided her if she lived in Fairbanks, which not try to throw Fairbanks under the bus, but that was her take of 40 years living up here. So I was happy to hear that. In regard to, you do have a package, you say, for 104 East 6th Street.
Yes, we do. Yes. And that was recently re-inspected in the last few weeks
Yes.
by our city inspectors. And we have detailed files on that property.
Okay. And so when will Charlie or Vince be back out here again, did you say? Is there an opportunity we're going to have something with them?
Well, they're available. I mean,
Okay.
again, they're in town and available. I mean, I actually have gotten emails from both of them in the last couple of days. So they're available if need be for discussions on that particular property.
I'm trying to derail a conflict that had happened before you were the director of city services. I think I'm able to do that. So I need that package, but I might need to speak with whoever was the principal inspector on that
Okay.
property the last time. Thank you. What else? Who else? Okay, thank you, Danny. Thanks for going down with me to that too, to that whole conference. Who have we not called forward here? Miss Ellie, you're next for HR.
Sorry, not moving so fast lately. So for HR, like I said, last meeting, mostly my focus is on my training. I've got my testing next week on the 22nd. So want to make sure I've got that all in tune. Right now I'm reviewing aspects that I struggled with in the pre-test so that I can make sure that I've got those down. As far as activity, most of the directors have mentioned the aspects in their departments that they've got going on that I've helped with. And then also I wanted to let the council know, I spoke with NBC and they are going to be filming in Fairbanks and trying to come out to North Pole. And would be interested if anyone else would in speaking with any of the council members that would be on, if they would like to. It's going to be live. They did request to speak with Santa, so I did contact him and see if he was okay with me giving out his information, and of course he was fine with that. And that'll be next week. They were filming in reference to the winter solstice. And one of their biggest questions was, how does everybody spend that 3 hours of daylight?
Very careful.
Does it change anything that we do throughout our day? So, yeah, I said most of us kind of just go about our normal day, but I'm sure there's some people that it changes things for. Otherwise, that's going to be until I get that training done. And unless something massive comes up, that's going to be my focus until after I've taken that test, which is on the 22nd. And I will be completely unavailable during the time that I'm testing, and that's in the morning. So.
Any questions, Ms. Clack?
The NBC,
Yes.
Can you pull your microphone down, please?
excuse me,
Please.
the NBC, what day is that?
My understanding is they're coming in on the 20th or 21st, but I don't have the exact day. And they'll be here through the 23rd. And they're going to try and do some different things in Fairbanks. And then they asked me about Santa Claus House. And of course, they were interested in Santa because he ran against some other constituents?
Candidate.
Candidates, there we go. Candidates for Mr.
For Congressman Young's.
Congressman Young's seat, yes.
Oh, okay.
So that's still big news.
Sounds good.
I've got the young lady's number. I can give it to you if you'd like to contact her, or I can contact her for you.
Only variable is I won't be in town.
That's right.
That's why I
Congratulations,
asked.
by the way.
Yeah, that's why.
I have a question, Megan.
Yes.
Have you heard from Megan Alexander from Up TV? She was going to give us a link because most of us, well, I couldn't have had a chance to see it anyhow. Up TV, channel 118. If you're a
Right.
Yukon cable subscriber to GCI, you could have seen. Otherwise, she said she'd give us a link.
I have not heard from Megan. I did, because Melissa did ask me about that also earlier. I did speak with Santa and he said his sister did get to watch it and it did give a very positive view of the North Pole. But I have not heard from Megan on that. I will see if I can find another avenue for us to see it on. But I do believe there has to be a subscription done in order to do that.
I think there's a way to get it,
There
a
is,
stream of it
yes.
so that we can see it,
So-
and I think it'd be nice for us to have it to show one night. But I did, she wrote a book, Small Town Christmas Wonder. So
Yes.
I will tell you later in closing comments what I did with that book. So I had a good time. So,
Right.
but I just wanted to know.
Yeah, I'll reach out to her and see if maybe she just kind of forgot
sure
on
she's
that.
busy.
So yeah, very
So-
busy lady.
But it aired on Sunday night.
I believe that for us, it ended up being at like 1:30 in the morning.
I
This
don't know who'd
morning.
watch it. That okay. It should have been at 4 o'clock. Should have been.
Yeah, I
it
was,
should have been 8 o'clock East Coast time, 4 o'clock our time.
it was all,
Yeah.
the stuff was weird.
What else, Ellie? So how are you doing on your pre-test?
I'm reviewing the things that I didn't do well on the pretest. Most of that is concepts that aren't as common of usage in the industry that I've been in over the last 10 years. Those are the biggest areas. I'm not struggling with the labor law, with any of that aspect, or any of the
Title 7, Title 9? things
all
like
of
that?
all
Yeah.
of those different aspects of it.
Mhm.
Sorry, it's late. I've
I know
I've
it
been
is.
up and
Yeah, I hear you.
I'm growing another human. So
There you go. Thank you
Bye.
very much. So where does that? We didn't have a borough report, did we? Did you?
No, we did. This thing actually working? No, we did not have a borough report because we were very busy in Anchorage. I thought I might zoom in very briefly, but by the time we got out of the meetings and stuff, they were already beyond the borough report time zone.
Of course, the borough could afford not to be there at AML. If y'all don't know this, the Fairbanks North Star Borough, 5-4 pulled out of the AML. Okay. They knew the cost of it. I don't know if they knew the value of it. Maybe they'll come back to the full one day, but that's their world. So they didn't have to be there. So they didn't go. But the three people from there, the borough mayor was going out of office as the president of ACOM, and Jill Dolan is going out of office as the presider over the Alaska attorneys, and Jim Williams for the Alaska Managers Association. So three of the senior people at the whole AML are no longer. So we had new elections and things. So I'll talk about that in closing comments as well. Thank you. Madam Clerk, what do we have for item 9? Any ongoing projects reports?
Are you going to do my report?
Oh, no, I thought you would skip that tonight. Go ahead. I'm just seeing if
So
you're on your toes. I want to see you play with your.
I play with my new camera. Isn't
yeah.
it snazzy?
Yes, snazzy.
Since we're speaking of it, Jonathan Huff has been here quite a lot the last couple of days. He was here Thursday night for a couple of hours. He was here Sunday afternoon for an afternoon. He was here this morning until about 1 o'clock. So he's been spending quite a lot of time here. There's still a few things to kind of button up, excess of cords behind our little kit over here. So just a few little things. He did work with Mr. Wallace about a few things that Public Works needs to come in and take care of for us, like the power to the cameras. There's a huge extension cord in my office. So a few little things like that. But I mean, we have cameras. I can move things around. I can zoom in on people. It's very snazzy. I'm very excited. And the best thing is we can actually communicate with people via Zoom if there was anybody there. So as most of the room was gone last week on conferences, I was also at the clerks conference. Like Ms. Fogarty said, it's just so nice to be in a room full of people who all do the same thing that you do, and you see that you're all struggling the same, and we all have the same, things that we're all going through. So it's just like a really good experience. So thank you so much to the council for supporting my traveling to these things. It really is super great. That's all I have.
Any questions of the clerk? Any concerns? Okay, thank you very much. I don't believe we have any ongoing projects reports. I think that's next week. So that takes me to item 10, to open up any citizens' comments, which are limited to 5 minutes per citizen. Do we have anyone wishing to comment?
We do. We have David Brandt with us. Yeah.
Hello, David. Would you come in and does he have a place to sign in? Say again?
I have him all signed in.
Okay, can you state your name and address for the record, please?
David Brandt, I live in the city,
City of,
city of North Pole.
what's your address there?
Do I have to give my
Yes.
actual street address?
Oh, yeah,
Okay, 850 Turner Drive,
I can't hear you.
850 Turner Drive.
850 Turner. Okay, fine. Yeah, that's part of what we do. Well, that's how we know you're a citizen of the city. Okay, thank you.
Well, I just want to talk about the budget in general to start with. I've got the budget figures going back to 2010. In 2010, the budget was $4,759,059. Over the next 9 years, it increased to $5,875,297. That's an increase in 9 years of $1,034,307. In 9 years, it increased. In 2019, your first budget was $5,976,784. Your proposed budget this year is $8,383,000. That's an increase from 2019 of $2,406,216. 2.5 times the increase of the previous 9 years. I just think that this budget overall is just getting out of hand. This is a city of 2,103 people. Okay, 2,103 people. 4.1 square miles. We're a small city. Okay. The city of Fairbanks has 33,522 residents. Okay. 32.6 square miles. So they have 16.5 times the number of residents that we have. And their budget this year is going to come in right around $46 million. The North Pole proposed budget is, their budget's about 5 times what the city of North Pole is, but they have 16.5 times the residents. Their city is 8 times the square miles as ours. It's a massive, compared to North Pole, a massive city. So if you break it down per resident, city of Fairbanks per resident, their budget is about $1,250 per resident. City of North Pole is right at $4,000 per resident. I just think that the budget's grown too large too fast. And then I have some specific comments on the budget that I'd like to.
Please do.
I'd like to do that when the budget comes up, so I have more time to talk about that.
May we ask you some questions?
Absolutely.
We're not supposed to debate, but we can ask. you
Oh, go ahead.
questions, Which is like playing Jeopardy. So if I ask you this, you're aware of economies of scale.
I understand that exactly.
It
Yes,
makes it very hard, as you can
right.
imagine.
But we have 14 miles of roads to maintain. They have 355 miles of roads and 29 miles of sidewalks.
Well, sure.
Okay.
So let me ask you the questions, because I think I'm being very attentive, and you might be surprised that I'm somewhat in agreement with you too. Because it concerns me. Are you aware that I've been somehow elected since 2005 off and on?
Yes, sir. I am.
So I pretty much was just remarking to one of the previous fire chiefs that it's hard for me. Are you aware that back in 2006, our whole budget for the city was $3.3 million. And for 2023, the fire department alone is somewhere near $3 million. And I'm sure you are aware, are you not, about what's been happening with inflation?
Yes, I am.
And that really hurt us.
That's another thing I wanted to comment
That
about.
really hit us hard. And
Yeah, and it's hitting us residents
Sure
hard
it is.
too.
it's about 11.
And you keep increasing the taxes that we have to pay.
Right. So,
You know, you're increasing the sales tax. Now we have to pay sales tax for online purchases, which I don't agree with whatsoever, period. I don't think that's,
for
that-
my understanding, why not on online services?
It,
I mean, it
it's,
came across.
your reasoning for doing that is because the businesses in this town are losing so much money to online sales. And I'd like to know what business in this town is losing any sales at all to online.
Well,
We're
would
not
it-
getting online dentistry.
Would it
You
surprise
know,
you?
we're not getting
No, we're not.
online fast food and groceries.
We're talking about retail. Are
I
you-
understand, yeah.
Are you aware that the Wayfair, South Dakota versus Wayfair Supreme Court decision that opened up online sales tax from 3 years ago? Are you aware of that?
I don't know about it specifically, no.
Okay, so that's specifically why we went there. And are you aware that the overseer of online sales tax, it could have gone to the state? But the state, you probably might not know this, the state doesn't want to be the one opening that Pandora's box. So are you aware they gave it to the Alaska Municipal League, which
Yes,
is
I
our
am.
contract service provider, believe it or not. So anytime we do that, but it's already been determined by the state Supreme Court, I mean, the US Supreme Court, excuse me, which the state attorney general agrees with, that we do have a right to online.
You have a
sales.
right to,
Right.
that doesn't mean you have to.
But we do it because it's either that or more property tax. So we are trying to have. a
Or
balance.
scale back the budget.
Yeah, but it's okay to scale it back if you can live with it. Are you aware that for us to be, how should I say it, competitive, that we have to, in the local market, not statewide or against some other city or state, but we have to have a fair wage? Are you aware of that, how difficult that is? But do you know what this city pays for PERS? Are you aware of PERS?
Yes, I did read the budget, yes.
So what do we pay per person in PERS?
You know, I don't have it directly in front of me.
Not money wise, but it's 22%. That's high. So if you can imagine what we call a loaded wage, if a person, I'll just use a round number, if they made a 50,000 a year, there's 11,000 more that goes on top of that just to the state for the retirement, which they don't see that much. And they pay 8% of their own pay to that retirement. Are you aware of what the city pays? I'll just round it up, but do you know the city pays a lot, for healthcare?
Every city does.
Oh, yeah,
Every
city
business does. I
Oh, yeah.
understand. I've read your
Yeah.
budget, Mayor. I've read the budget.
Yeah, but that's
Okay,
that's
I
what
underst-
happened is healthcare went up.
It hasn't gone up 50% in 5 years.
Oh, healthcare has gone up a lot
No,
more since.
the entire budget has increased from $2.5 million since 2019.
Probably had.
It
to.
was $5.9 million was your first budget.
That was
This
my first
budget is
budget.
$2,406,000 more.
When, and
and-
when I slid home at the end of 2019, I had a $2,057 surplus. Are you aware how hard a trick that is to pull off? $2,057 surplus, meaning I didn't overtax. And I'm not advocating. You might ride with us tonight. You might influence us on our decision tonight, which is why I say, yes, you may stay and give comment also on that later. But I'm trying to get you to understand it's a very tough thing to come up with. And the inflation has hurt us over the years. And things that, when I can tell you a fire department now has a budget almost as high as when I came on board as a rookie. that many years ago. That really 16 years ago, 17 years ago. That tells me there's something there. And we're always trying to do a balance. Are you aware that we have lowered the property tax?
Not as much as the assessments have increased.
I can't control the assessments. Are
I
you aware
understand
who-
that,
who
but
controls the assessments?
you lowered the mill rate,
That's right.
but you will be collecting more in taxes.
But
Lowering the mill rate doesn't mean that I'm paying less property
But-
taxes.
But are you aware that if I took the mill rate that we had, based on the assessment, which I can't do the assessments, I'm sorry, I can't do that. But we would have about 230 or 40,000 more dollars that I don't want us to have to pay. And there are more than 2,100 citizens in North Pole. That's a thing stuck in time from 2020.
I got
Estimates-
that directly off of
I
your
know-
website
I know where you
today.
got it from, but it's more like 2,500 people now. So that's,
Oh, okay, so instead of $4,000 per resident, you're at 3,900.
yes.
Okay,
because-
that's still
that's true,
excessive,
But
in my
that's
opinion.
what it costs to run the city. Basically, so I'm finding a way, the best that we can as a body, to keep our employees. We have economies of scale. If I look at the borough, you have 440 or so employees. This city, including me, has about 44 full-time employees. It makes it very difficult for economies of scale. Same thing for our water sewer department, everything. And as you hear us go through the economics tonight, as we discuss the third reading of the budget, you may be pleasantly surprised what we come up with. I would like to ask the other members of the council if they want to ask you questions. Anyone have any questions? Now would be the time to ask David. Thank you for your comment. Appreciate it. Please stay
Mayor?
with us.
May I say one thing now?
Well, you had a chance.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Oh, but that would be the question. I'm sorry. It's not actually a question, but I'd like to thank you for coming back to our meeting, because we know that you got up, but somebody was trying to catch up with you when you left at the last meeting.
I was extremely upset at the last meeting.
There are certain things that you, I don't know exactly when that was. Madam Clerk, do you know what he's talking about?
It was the last meeting.
And how was that? Was that on public comment period or what?
Well, he didn't know to contact us, so.
Yeah, you have to
he
you
came to
have
the
to,
meeting,
you should, that's in our newspaper ad and everything. It's on our website. Huh?
I don't get the.
It's on our website too.
And, I mean, I'm sitting right here. You ever been asked for public?
I asked the clerk, is anyone here for public commentary? No one came forward.
That was public comments for items not on the agenda.
That's right.
And when it came time for the budget, you were not allowed public comment.
If there was no one signed up for it, true.
But can't you just ask? About it?
Yes, you could, but somehow you weren't identified. I don't know how that happened. I apologize.
You never allowed for it.
I did,
Mr. Cromer
yeah.
specifically asked, and I go back and look at the last meeting.
Okay, I don't have it to look at, so.
Well, I'll tell you exactly the time at an hour and 10 minutes and 27 seconds into it, you asked it for public comments from citizens. For
Yeah, we do that. That's what item 10 is about. That's what item 10
And then
is.
you're supposed to allow for public comments on items that are on the agenda.
Did they not make it a
When
consent?
you started discussing it, you didn't ask for public comment. When you- 1 hour and 10 minutes. No, I'm sorry, hour and 31 seconds. Over here. Said, hey, wait a minute, I want a public comment on budget. That's what got me upset. Budget.
Okay,
For leaving like that, we appreciate it.
appreciate it.
We do thank you for coming in and sharing your thoughts. Okay, we do want to make sure that our North Pole people are being heard. So we would like to be able, if at all possible, to have a discussion moving forward to make it probably sooner than having you guys speak later. That's something we would like to be able to talk to later within our group.
Is there anyone else for citizens' comments?
Not that I'm aware of.
No one else. Okay. We go on to item 11, old business. What's up, Madam Clerk?
So it's the budget ordinance.
And that is an ordinance of the city of North Pole, and that's item B. 2225. B was already consented. Okay. Ordinance 2225, an ordinance of the city of North Pole, Alaska, establishing the 2023 operating and capital budget to levy the mill rate, because we have to also tell the mill rate to the borough by the 19th of next month. You'll find that on pages 11 to 109. Where's Ms. Fogarty with us here to go through that if necessary, and the rest of the directors are standing by if necessary. So we'll go to pages 11 to 109. Ms. Fogarty? Yeah, that's what I'm calling you to the microphone for.
Okay, at the last meeting, Councilman Jacobson made an amendment to leave the sales tax at the way it is. And then they changed the cap to 1650, and that's all that we've changed in here.
What do you mean leave the sales rate where it is?
Was can you bring it up?
5.5.
5.5, and we originally had it at 5.
Yeah, he wanted it at 5.5, but the exemption to go from $200 to $300
Right,
for a
from
sale,
$11
because we
to
haven't moved that in
$16.50.
25 years.
Right,
It's been frozen in time for 25 years. And he also, that would make the maximum tax go from a proposed, what currently is today, $11 to go to $16.50.
that's correct.
Okay. And that was what he
Right,
proposed to
and
do.
so we changed it in the ordinance sheet,
Okay.
and we changed it in the history part of this budget.
Okay. So I want to talk about that. To me, that's a 50% possible increase in sales tax from 11 to 16.50. Isn't that correct? Half of $11 would be $5.50.
Yeah, it would only occur when you had a
Only
cap.
if
Right.
you hit that cap,
Right.
right? So when I put my projections together, and they're more solid now, because this is a moving target for everyone who wants to know. This is always a moving target. Because we don't have all the data, because our year hasn't ended yet. When will we have all the data for what we've done in sales tax?
In February.
Around February 2nd, we'll have the data for the months of November and December, which we don't have right now. But trying to do this way back in September is not an easy task. But when you're doing it in September or even October, you're always 60 days in arrears, correct?
Correct.
So my best estimate was that by going and lowering the sales tax rate to 5% and to lower the property tax to 3.5%, we would have the following. We would have $1.1 million of property tax levied at 3.5 mils. Okay, so 1.1 million, that's about $220,000 less than what the borough says we would get at 4 mils. The second thing is by lowering the sales tax rate from 5.5% back to 5%, then the maximum tax would be achieved if and only if you go, to $300
Right.
sale. However, I would think most of that would occur with online sales, and that would take us to a possible $15, not $16.50 sales tax. Because 5% times 300 would be $15. And that, for the most part, if you remember me saying, would probably occur most for online sales, not like when you're buying things at the store here locally or gasoline or whatever. So that's where I'm at on that. What balance I'm always trying to strike is to keep the ratio of sales tax to property tax somewhat in sync. When I first moved here, we had a 3% sales tax. And the most you could ever pay in sales tax was $6.
Right.
And shortly after I got here, it moved to $4, 4% sales tax. And it was supposed to sunset, but it never did.
Right.
So that moved us up to a possible $8 sales tax. And eventually that moved up to 5%, which was $10. And then it moved to 5.5, which was $11. But what I'm trying to do is get back to a ratio, and it works like this. Out of the taxes, we're not talking about grants, and we're not talking about loans or anything. Just the sales and property tax would be about $6.6 million. 1.1 rounded to the nearest 100,000. 1.1 would be property tax, and 5.5 would be from sales tax. The sales tax is what helps us get through.
Right.
Much more, because there are a lot of people who use our city,
Right.
and we still have to pay.
Right. Yeah, it's not just the city residents that are paying. It's everybody that
Everybody.
shops in the city,
Yeah,
everybody that has online sales tax delivered inside the city, PO box, this place of work,
yes.
so forth.
And it has to be that we have to pay for our police, our fire, our EMS, our roads to be maintained, which cost us quite a bit because, once again, economies of scale. What else do we have for expenses that you're aware of that, like electricity, lighting?
Yeah, electric, fuel oil.
Yeah.
We budgeted higher this year for those things because
Yes.
obviously they're on the rise.
They're on the rise. One of the things that was very hard that is not always transparent in a budget is the aging street lights in the core of the city. I'll ask Danny Wallace to come up alongside of you, pull a chair up. He might know in his budget, just pull up a chair there, Danny. Share a chair with Tricia. Years and years ago, long before I was mayor, they went to what was called FMATs at the time. We call it FAST now. And nobody acted on almost 4 years of updating our streetlights. And I think we put $175,000 aside to just do the streetlights for the city. Where's it at now, Danny, for streetlights?
Our budget for streetlight maintenance for next year is at $10,000. So
What is the cost of the streetlights in the interior of the city, Danny? I'm not talking about, I'm talking about replacement.
Oh, okay. I was
The
wondering if you're talking about
replacement.
electricity.
the replacement for the streetlights, yeah, I don't have those numbers right now.
Okay, it's somewhere close to $1.7 million altogether for the whole city. So we said we can't afford to do the whole city. So we're just going to do part of the city.
Oh, the downtown, yes, the
Yeah.
downtown.
What
yes.
is the downtown part
Yeah,
of the city?
It
The old
is,
core,
it is 1.6, yes.
1.6, $1.7 million. Those are the things that don't always show up right away in a budget. Those are the things that I have to hold fast to in my head. Okay, because those lights are aging and they're very energy inefficient to switch to LEDs. Am I correct?
Correct.
And to be able to do some of the things that we never dreamed would happen. I could ask my fire chief. I see my police chief just got up and walked out here, but what's it costing, Chief Heineken, now to get your vehicles that now that they have all these chip problems and all this stuff, is costing how much more? Yes, oh, yes.
It's gone up incredible now. I mean, we go right now, it was.
Yeah.
Smaller truck ordered, by another department this summer was over $900,000. Smaller truck, so.
Sure. And just looking, say, something like 7 garage doors for your fire department that were breaking down. That was what, just for those 7 doors, $11,000 a door? Right, so, it's not by mistake that these things are crafted together in a budget. It's what's costing us. We're so small. What would you do without, if you could do without anything? To pare back your budget, what would you do without?
Budgets, when you take them, the largest
PC and B, personnel costs and benefit.
to downsize our person. Fire department, I'm just. Fire department.
Sure.
That is significant.
Oh, you wouldn't want to suffer the service you provide for the protection. And your protection, chief, by the way, does it just include 2,100 or 2,500 people? How many people does it really extend to?
We figured at 30,000 people. We provide emergency services to the greater Norfolk area because they are using 6. So population during the school. Just look at it as we're
30 what? Yeah. Because you go all the way in your ambulance service up to the Big Bend in the highway, don't you?
We go from the first Badger overpass to Isles.
Eielson, quite a distance, isn't it? Do you go up to Lackloy?
We go up to the Chena River on Lackloy and then south.
So it's a lot more than just who lives in the city limits, isn't it?
Very much so.
Okay. And as this city expands to the south, because we are in Brookside Park in our southern border, what is that going to do? Can you wait for it? Or should you be prepared in advance to have trained people and equipment before it gets here? Or should you wait?
Proactive for trying to forecast the needs of the city. Because like I said, the expense of fire equipment, emergency service equipment is escalating so fast that percent. Yeah, what that. Catch up.
Okay, thank you. Chief Chambers, do you have anything to add that you've seen? Because you came from Fairbanks. What have you seen? Danny, I'm still going to ask you some questions, Danny. You want Chief Chambers to sit up there?
No,
Not the hot
I
seat.
can tell you the difference that I see is there is a vision here to stay ahead of the curve, like Chief Heineken was saying. One of the things we suffered from tremendously, and they continue to suffer, not having enough people. It would be wonderful to say that we'll just increase the volunteer. It doesn't work. They're not there. What we have to count on is paying people to do the tasks that we need to do. And our community grateful to do it, and
Thank you, Chief. Chief Dutra, can you bring a chair up to the microphone? I'm going to ask you a question.
That's all.
Yeah, we need to get those chairs back in here. Chief, in your department, what have you noticed about police cars to try to stay up to speed on that? What do you notice about that?
No pun intended, speed, keeping up speed, the prices has gone up tremendously.
Right.
Yeah.
And so was there anything that we could have done to prophesize that happening?
No, sir.
No, sir. If there was anything you would cut out of your department, what would it be?
That's a deep question.
I hope so.
What are you talking? How much money? You talking $50? Or are you talking
Sir, I'm
100,000?
being serious.
I don't know what you're asking me.
Okay.
You're not,
Well,
you're
no,
asking
well,
me
no,
this,
don't make a,
you're asking me a pie in the sky question. I
no,
don't know
I
what you-
know, no, I'm not asking pie in the sky, but if there's anything that you knew that was not necessary, what would you eliminate, if anything?
I would never put forward a budget that's not necessary.
Okay. Thank you. I mean, everything you have in there for the number of officers, your detective, your evidence, your administrative support. That's the cost of doing business to have
Correct.
this city stay safe.
Correct, sir.
Even though we're now 2 patrol officers down,
Currently, yes.
right? So we're not fully employed. We keep taking a step forward and 2 back, it seems like, but that happens.
In 2 short months, we'll be down 4.
You'll be down 4.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have to do something to attract people to come here and not work somewhere else, correct?
Correct.
That was the main thrust of what we learned down at AML. This, every mayor, every city is going, every village even is going through this problem. Okay. So Danny, from your perspective in public works, we won't talk about utility because utility, unlike everything else, water and sewer is a commodity and it runs like a business. So we call it an enterprise fund. Am I allowed to take people's taxes to pay for your water and sewer?
Generally not,
No.
no, it's not again, it's an enterprise fund by definition, it supports itself.
It's a ratepayer. Ratepayers pay for that. So that doesn't come out of the general fund, but in the general fund, you have public works. Okay. And because the city is growing and we've had this snow Armageddons and all these things with climatic change, have we had to add people to your public works force?
Yes, certainly. And we found out even over the past few weeks, it's been very advantageous to have 4 people well, we've got 3 full-time and 1 part-time
One
public works
part-time.
person.
Right. So, and as we grow our city's boundaries, are you going to be able to get by in the year 2023 with that size force?
Again, we're hoping to transition 1 to a full-time position, and actually this budget does include that. Number of roads continue to expand. We as developers build, we take responsibility for those roads, and it definitely it's not easy, and it's not easy to keep quality people. And again, many of you know the people that work in our public works department. I mean, they are the kind of people that we need. They are able to be plowing roads at one time and fixing the power here in City Hall, within the same day. But very, very talented individuals that we want to keep. And again, the budget indicates the price of keeping good people.
Are we able to afford full-time engineers as inspectors?
No, and that's why we contract folks, but we have 2 phenomenal engineers that work for us. And again, we don't have to pay them the fully loaded wages. They're contractors. But we do ensure that the rates that we charge the citizens for, whether it's a single family home, multifamily, or commercial businesses, we ensure that those rates are fair. And again, at the same rate as industry standard within Alaska.
And sir, did those fees for 23 just recently go up maybe 20% for them?
They did, and then again, tied to expenses with the same things other folks have talked about. Expenses across the board have increased.
So from your perspective as the Director of City Services, for those things that are impacted by sales tax and property tax, do you see any place you would trim in your budget?
Again, we don't submit. Again, this is taxpayer money, and we do not submit things that aren't needed. Again, we take a very hard look, both myself and then the supervisors for all 3 of the departments. Took a very hard look at this. And again, we really tried to project based on what we know about energy costs, electricity costs, and certainly wages, and ensuring, like I said, keeping everyone that's currently what all organizations face is a shortage of labor and manpower. And again, ensuring that our wages, and again, we support the wage scale that the city has, because again, it helps us keep good people. Really for the city services, we are not short 2 two individuals as the police department briefed. We do have the right people in the right places right now, and we hope to keep them.
Sure. For your biggest users of heating oil, your two largest users of heating oil.
Well, certainly water utilities uses a significant amount of energy to keep the water flowing within the pipes. It has to be heated, especially during the winter. So we, again, just like everyone heating their homes, costs skyrocket in the wintertime. And we're certainly feeling that right now.
Everyone's been hit by that, including the city. So just for a matter of elaborating, Madam Tricia, back me up if I'm wrong. When we started with our contractor, Alaska Petroleum Distributors, 2+ years ago, we had a contract price of $2.77 a gallon for heating oil. It got as high as $4.84 a gallon. Could we tell them, sorry, we can't pay that? We're not going to pay that?
No, when they bid rack price at the time. As I'm sure everybody knows, that price can change overnight, can change several times a week. It went up to that amount that you're talking about, the $4 park, but then maybe 3 weeks later, it went back down.
Yeah, it's back and forth.
Mhm.
There's no stability in that price.
Right.
But right now, it's just pennies below $4 a gallon, isn't it?
Right,
Yeah.
yes.
So what we're projecting is, we actually put out a bid. Is it down right now for the rack price, $3.47 a gallon?
It's
$3.47.
if that's the rack price.
That's, and it could go up if
Right.
it's necessary. Yeah, that's what they bid for. So we're trying to do what we can to slide home, because this building, the police department, the fire department, public works, everyone has to have heat. We can't let it go unheated. So I'm just trying to elaborate that there's a lot of thought that goes into this. And it's very astonishing when you see the overall bill. It's very hard to imagine how can we contain it with everything going through double-digit inflation. It is not easy. I will say this too. We can look at my good friend, Mark Twain. He told me there are lies, there are damn lies in statistics. I believe that. I know that when the CARES Act money was being handed out, the city of Fairbanks got $460 per citizen. The borough got $465. The city of North Pole got $2,000 per citizen. Why did we get that much more? Why did city of North Pole? Because a lot of mayors want to, how did y'all wing to get that? I didn't write a boilerplate thing where I just cut and paste what the governor's declaration was, or what the city of Fairbanks or the boroughs actually quantified what I knew that we had already lost in the first 35, 40 days of what was not happening in our stores. And because of that, they said, yep, he's right. They are going to suffer. So we got $4,068,000 something, didn't we? That was $2,000 based on what we said our citizens were back then. So those days, like we used to get in yesteryear, there's no way for me to explain this other than to have lived through it and have participated in it. There was a time where I was sent by Mayor Ward to go and lobby the legislature in 14. And I was sent to bring home $3.5 million. And I brought home $3.1 million. That was called community sharing. Well, there's different terms for it now. I think today they call it community sharing. Ms. Fogarty, how much are we going to get in community sharing and under the realism of what we're at today as a state? How much is the city going to get?
Well, we budgeted, I think $40,000 or $80,000, and this year they had a surplus, so they gave us a little bit more, but that doesn't mean next year will be the same way.
So we'll be lucky to see even
Right.
$125,000. So part of the issue is you have monies that were coming in from the past. And that doesn't mean it was just spent capriciously. But now we have to find a way to continue to provide the same services without having the support from the state. And the whole idea from this governor is we are at the grassroots level. We know our citizens better than the state would. So y'all figure a way to work it out. So that's where the taxes come in at, unfortunately. That's where we're left with. We're charged with that responsibility, but that's why we have a taxing authority. So we have to take that in consideration. So I'm going through this, not just for the benefit of the council, but anyone out here who'll ever go back and listen to this and watch this, to know this budget was not put together capriciously either. It was put together with some forethought. Tricia, when did we start putting the workshop together? The directors?
I want to say September. We
That's the latest.
Right, yeah.
Early
And
September.
we did a little earlier this year than we had in the past, because we wanted to really thoroughly meet with everyone. All the department heads, yourself, myself, Michelle. And we did set, from my recollection, we did at least 2 more, maybe 3 run-throughs and trimmed and got to where we need to be. Now, in all the years I've been in this position, we have not ever come out over budget, but we plan on our budget to be the maximum amount we need. That doesn't mean that we spend everything that's in that budget. You know, it's a moving target. It's kind of a dart on the dartboard. It's how, you know, are we going to replace computers? Are we going to, you know, all that kind of stuff goes into the thinking of it. Maybe the computer is fine and we don't replace it. And so we don't just go out and spend every dollar that we've budgeted.
What does anyone else here think on the council about what we're doing with this budget? Now that you've been able to see this unfold in the budget workshops for the 3 days in October, and now we're at the 3rd reading. What do you think about this? I'm going to ask everyone here that wants to through the chair here, through me, say what you think about it so far. Ms. Clack, I'll start with you.
This is my first year. In
Pull
looking at
your
the-
microphone up, please.
This is my first year and going through the workshops with the council and learning how things were put together and the time that the mayor and the accountant and all of his supervisors sat down and looked at the budget. I found that it was quite tedious for everyone. I found that it was quite difficult to come up with the budget that they would need and the things that were coming on board for near future. I saw that we are planning for the future, okay? I was born and raised here and I raised my family out here, so I saw the difference of how our community is growing. And I saw how, let's take the police department and the fire department. And I've been, for myself, having a chance to go through these buildings and seeing that it's not conducive to what's happening presently as we're growing. And more so for the pandemic, to see that our fire department had to figure out where they were going to sleep during our pandemic time. So knowing that and seeing that, and then knowing the fire trucks, how they rotate the fire trucks each year, each couple, 10, right? To see the mileage on the vehicles as they're going out and then on the roads that they have to utilize, okay? Again, looking at how we have to pay for property tax and how we pay for food and things here. And now knowing this is my second time as an adult going through our inflation point of fuel at $5. My father had $1,000 fuel tank, and for them to come out and fill it up at 2,500, I'm looking at him and saying, Dad, 2,500. He says, oh, that's nothing. You know, it's $1,000 fuel tank and, you know, $5. And he says, I'm sorry I put that burden on you. And I'm looking at it and saying, but Dad, I only have a 500 fuel tank, and they came out and filled mine, but mine was 600 at $5 a gallon. So I was still baffled at what he put in. So to know that these things flex along with how our light bills and things are going, we have these things to put in place to protect us, that we're not having to come back to the people and ask the following year for more because the city now had put us in the red. So for that factor, since I've been on the board, I've looked and saw how in the past, the past boards have tried to make sure that that does not happen. Okay. Looking at PERS and listening in the MLL.
AML?
Yes. The PERS is part of the variable for the employees for the state. And seeing to match that, the state has to match and more. And like you said, the 22% is quite high. But also seeing that what the members have to meet for retirement as well. And you do want to have a retirement. You work all this time to have a retirement. And to see that Tier 5 may not have a good retirement plan. And so PERS has to figure out what they're going to do to fix that error. Okay. So that's what I see since I've been on board.
Thank you. John, your turn.
Mr. Mayor, point of order.
Yes.
Should we introduce this before we open it up and start talking
No,
about
I
it?
want us to talk about it, then we'll introduce it formally. I just want to talk about it because we're going to turn it over to a citizen. I know how we're going to do it, but I do want to talk about it while the time's going. Go ahead, Deshaun.
I've been on the
I did
council
introduce it to
for
her.
probably 4 or 5 years, and I've noticed that the police chief and the fire chief and the city director and everyone comes up here in our workshops, and they go line through line throughout everything for us what they need for to get through their job. The fire, all the firefighters came in on their shift that one day, and they were here and listening and stuff. It's good to see some of the people who work for the city to come up here, and as you see people, and that you want to make sure that they got the right pay, and they want to be here to work for the city of North Pole, and that's really good for us. It's nice to know that our budget is like, when you guys present our budget, it's not that, we're trying to get so much stuff that we don't need. It's really here for the, for the good of the city. And lastly, I know that we have a lot of vehicles that need to be replaced, and we have a lot of stuff that needs to be done. I know we, for the utility part of the aspect, we had to pull funds from somewhere else that, that we don't have. So it's good to know that we're actually trying to make sure that, we're using stuff in the right way.
Thank you. Anton?
Just real quick. I have the privilege of talking to quite a few people that have boots on the ground with police force, with fire, with city, and they need help. If the way that we have the budget now secures us for this year, but with us not touching sales tax, that gives us a little buffer for the future. With that planning for the future, we need to make sure that somehow City of North Pole becomes a little bit more energy independent. So I'm one to make sure I have some food storage, financial storage buried somewhere, or finances in a fund somewhere for rainy days, because we don't know if there's going to be another pandemic, epidemic, financially or physically. For me, I think the city of North Pole deserves the best. And for us to have the best, it's going to cost the best as well. And for us to continue with this, we're going to have a little bit of a sacrifice now, but also benefit in the future. So I hope that is crystal clear a little bit, that yes, I'm one to be frugal, but I want to be able to be frugal in the future and also have success.
Thank you. Mr. Skips?
Yeah, this is about my sixth or seventh budget meeting I've gone through. And I know going through every single time, each department, we're nitpicking every single department. And I know the departments aren't frivolously throwing money out there. Hey, I need this, I need this. It's not a whim, it's stuff they definitely need. It's stuff they, if anything, they could use more, but the budget just doesn't allow it at that, certain time. So I think it's a good thing we do each year, go through the budget, basically line by line. And then if we have questions, we do ask the department head, hey, explain this. Why do you need this? That's all I have.
Ms. Welch, any comments?
I think also in the 5 years that I've been on here, I've seen the chiefs and the department heads really dig deep in the beginning to keep in the first couple of years of your mayorship, to have a pretty even budget. I remember you telling them the first year, you can't go over what you had last year. I want it flat from last year. I've seen what they are doing for our vehicles and for the prices going up for that. I recall having a very telling story from Chief Dutra a few years ago, where he was showing the difference in between what an older vehicle costs to run versus if you bought a new one, and where the maintenance and where the two curves crossed each other. And I think he's been very particular about trying to make sure that we were not pouring bad money behind good stuff. Instead of doing that, sell a vehicle and get a new one. Watch the fire department being very particular about, they have ambulances that have hundreds, thousands miles on it, and they have to take our loved ones and our injured people out there. And if they all of a sudden lose part of that ambulance because it breaks down, it's not a good thing. The contract that we have with the borough for running ambulances outside our city helps pay for some of that stuff, and we'll appreciate that. And that's part of the budget. So the fire department isn't just pulling money out, they're also putting money in, just shy of $1 million on that contract. So I appreciate that. So I think the budget, as much as I hate to see it being up as much as it is, my budget for my personal living expenses are the same. They are up too. That's all I can say.
Thank you. Would someone then now, under this ordinance, like to introduce this for the record? Madam Clerk? Go ahead, Mr. Skips.
Yeah. I want to introduce ordinance 2225, the ordinance of North Pole City Council establishing the 2023 operating capital budget and levying the mill rate.
Second.
The motion by Skips and seconded by Welch. So we've had a chance to discuss some things. And so now we turn to citizens' comments on ordinance 2225. Does any citizen like to come forward? Just state your name. Speak into the microphone, please, sir. Thank you.
Say there's no fat in your budget, but last year or earlier this year, you wanted to spend $250,000 of taxpayer money to buy a contaminated piece of property outside of the city limits and give it to a developer for free.
Excuse me. Just for the record, no, I did not. I did not want to, especially because of what you just said. Because I knew, because that's why God gave me the memory he did. I knew that it was contaminated. Did
Yet
know
you
that
went
this body-
forward.
It did not. This body,
Oh, you went forward for months trying to push that through.
actually, I had something else. We had south of us, Pristine and Brookside Park. That was where things were going to go, and we did not know that we were going to have snow Armageddon that went into and peered really deep into our reserves.
Okay, so You were
Before,
still gonna buy the property and give it away to a developer for free,
it wasn't
correct?
a developer, it was called Ada. And
Yes,
here's why.
Ada does not build the buildings themselves.
Okay, so, no.
Okay, I'm not here to debate
No,
that.
I'm not here to
I'm just
debate.
saying that's,
Mr. Mayor,
that's a
Yes.
$250,000 of taxpayer money that you were gonna give away.
It was more
that-
than that.
Point of order, Mayor.
Go ahead.
This is citizens' comments.
Say again?
This is citizens' comment.
Yes.
He's got the
citizens'
floor.
comments, But, so go ahead and make your comments and I'll try to keep track and I'll ask you questions. Thank you.
In the last meeting, I wish Mr. Jacobson was here, but he proposed an amendment to increase the proposed budget on the sales tax back up to 5.5% and make the maximum 1650. And his reasoning was that we need money in case the water main breaks. And we need more money because it costs more for heating fuel to heat the water for the water utilities. And so he wants to increase the property taxes so we can put it in a capital fund to pay for utility projects. The utility is an enterprise fund completely separate from the city. But there's too much crossover between the city and the utilities. It's getting out of hand. I don't have water and sewer. I live in the city. I don't have water and sewer. There's a large number of people on my end of town that don't. You don't.
I don't.
There's, on the other end of town, there's a large number of people that have water but no sewer. The vast majority of the water customers live outside of the city now. But Mr. Jacobson is proposing raising property tax or raising sales tax to spend on the utilities if it needs it. I don't agree with that. I think that should be brought back down to the 5%, and I would like to see the maximum brought down to $10 instead of $16.50. The reason behind that is what you were talking about earlier, inflation. It's killing everybody. Double-digit inflation. Well, that means that we're collecting more in sales tax. Every item that you buy is that much more. So you're collecting double digits increase in sales tax. And it's far more than that. I don't know. Just go buy anything, go to any restaurant in town. It's gone up far more than 10% in the last year. Okay, so we're collecting that much more in the property tax or in the sales taxes. It doesn't need to be increased because the inflation is increasing on its own. Just like I was saying about the property tax. Yeah, you can lower the mill rate, but I'm still paying more in property taxes because the assessments have gone up. Same thing with sales tax. So I wish you would lower the sales tax down to the 5% that was proposed and even lower the proposed, I don't know where the 1650 came. I know where it came from. That was a ridiculous discussion this council had. Anyway, the other proposal I'd like to make is to make heating, fuel, and electricity tax exempt. Everybody is complaining about the cost of heating fuel. And every time I get a heating fuel delivery, now it's going to cost me another $100 or $16.50. With 10 deliveries in a year, that's another $165. You know, electricity rates, they just recently went down a little bit, but they're continually going up. We can't live without heating, fuel, and electric. You don't tax the water and sewer. I don't know why that is. So I think that if you're not going to tax water and sewer, then you shouldn't tax heating and electric. So that's it for my comments.
I may ask you some questions. Thank you, Anton, for keeping me on track. I would like to keep on track. So with Alaska Industrial Development Authority, are you aware that when they
With all
were,
due respect, Mayor, that is in the past and that
I'm
has
going to
nothing to do with
speak to
this
it.
current
Well, let me
budget.
speak to it. I think it'll help you to understand. They were going to provide, see, I cannot have a developer have this city pay to bring water and sewer. The developer's agreement says they will bring it. Okay, and the developer of that park didn't even have the money to put in the roads, much less water and sewer. So Ada was brought to us with the idea in Brookside Park that they would put water and sewer in there, which would be, best that we know right now, is $6 to $8 million to bring water and sewer to that area.
The sewer lines are already there.
No,
They
they're
just
not.
need to be tested.
No, they're not there.
They were put
no,
in years
They're
ago,
not there.
decades ago.
I'm telling you, I'm the
Okay.
mayor, and I could bring Mr. Wallace up
That-
and he
That's,
explained.
you know, that has nothing
Yeah,
to do
I
with
don't
this
want to
year's
just
budget.
debate it with you. What I'm saying is it was that to be able to connect to the water and bring sewer lines to people's houses. There's an interceptor line, are you aware, that runs between the Baker subdivision and north end of Brookside Park?
Yes,
Are you aware
I
of that?
understand Brookside Park. I live in that
Right.
area of town.
Yeah. So
This council was proposing to spend $250,000 on a piece of property outside of the city limits, a contaminated piece of property outside of the city limits, and give it away for free. Okay?
I know
And that has nothing to do with Brookside Park.
Brookside
yes.
Park was the original. That's what I'm
That
trying
is
to
the original. That's inside the city limits.
yeah.
Then all of a sudden you
That's right.
decided that you wanted to
No,
buy
I
this.
didn't decide that. Ada did. It
Okay.
came up because they lost Brookside Park.
You were pushing for it, Mayor.
Pushing
You
for what?
pushed, you were pushing for this development.
Which
And
development?
again, please, let's get back on
Yeah.
this year's budget.
I am on this.
I'm
year's
just
budget.
saying that you were proposing to spend $250,000 of taxpayers' money to give it away for free. That means to me that you've got piles of cash laying around that you don't know what to do with if you're just giving it away.
I wish I had
You
piles
know,
of
well,
cash laying around. One of the
Again,
most,
that,
what,
please, let's get back on
let
this
me
year's
ask you this.
budget.
How much do you think the city should have with a $6 million, $7 million, $8 million budget? How much money do you think we should have in reserves to be safe? Let me
I
ask you.
looked and looked and looked, and I can't find your capital budget reserve anywhere online. I have no idea how much money you have.
Did Ms. Fogarty just leave the room for some reason? She would know. We're trying to hold more than 6 months in reserve. I would like to have a year in reserve. That's what I'd like to have, but we just can't get there.
I would like to have a year reserve in my pocket too.
Sure, but I mean, for a city that represents thousands of people and we're growing, we're in a growth stage. You realize that.
I
So,
do, and
Yeah.
that has nothing.
but part of the growth stage for wanting to have the monies to put in, it wasn't just to be the great giveaway, it was if somebody came in and put the water and sewer in, then they expected us to at least give them the land. I hate to say that, but that was their model. That was their model, not motto, but model. Don't know why it's that way. But I'm glad that that's behind us because it wasn't worth it because I don't like that.
Can we
land.
get back onto
Yeah,
this
we're
year's
getting-
budget,
yes,
please?
Sure we are. So in this regard, I think you've heard enough testimony that we don't have any fluff in the budget. Madam Tricia, can you tell us what we have in reserves? He said he couldn't find our capital reserves anywhere. How much do we have in reserves, this city? Come up to the microphone, please. Seriously. Do we even have $8 million in reserves?
No, if you're talking about the capital reserve, like the fleet fund,
No, not talking about the fleet fund. I mean, just what is our, if. What do we have in savings? How much do we have in savings? Total?
well, we have going to be $6 million in the AML AMLIP.
And
And then we have probably about 3 more million over the bank.
so
But,
yeah,
you know, we expend money, we receive money, so
so maybe 8, almost a year's worth of reserve. And that's what I started doing when I got here 4 years ago, was putting us on track for that. So
Okay.
are we pretty, Yeah.
Last meeting, Mr. Jacobson wanted to increase the amount of money that you keep putting into these reserves.
yes,
Again, mostly for the utilities.
yes.
If you go back and watch the meeting, his reasoning was if the water main breaks, we need to spend general funds money to repair it.
His reasoning was wrong.
I agree,
Yes,
but you voted to increase it.
not for what he said for though.
You, voted-
I know what I voted for.
you,
I voted to increase it because he is right in one way that we are running on a thin dime. We really are. And I don't think that we need to go that high. That's what I said. That's why I want you to come and testify in this second level here, not just what you did earlier tonight, because you might be pleasantly surprised at how at least my mind thinks and how I would hope this council will think after they hear you. Okay. I'm not sure that it would be to our best interest to lower the sales tax to only a $10 maximum sales tax. Personally, I think that would be a mistake. However, I think going to $16.50 would be a mistake too, because it might give us $180,000 to $220,000 more than what we need. So when you see a surplus at the end of the year of an audit, it means you overtax people. That's what it means. You unnecessarily. Now in the business model, you're trying to make profit, but as a citizen paying taxes to get a service, you should hope that it's a fair tax, whether it's a property tax or a sales tax. So I hope you can can you see one thing I'm trying to do is make the ratio of sales tax to property tax one that says it's balanced, that there's some sensibility to it. No, I don't believe we need to be at 4 mils for property. One of the issues I think that cost us, that the state tax assessor tells us, is if we would do away or amend what we give seniors and disabled veterans towards their property tax, things would be a lot better, but state's only going to do what we tell them to do. So that's another issue. But I think that we hold a line pretty good here by saying, once you reach a certain age or a certain disability, you know, that 50% of your home is not taxed. And where more and more of us are getting to that age or disability level. But still, I think, in my mind, $1.1 million of property tax and $5.5 million of the different 2 types of sales tax are a good mix for this city. Where's the balance, sir? Can you tell me if we have a 6.6 million, how do we get to 8.3? Where does the balance come from?
Why do you need 8.3?
Huh?
Why do you need 8.3?
Oh, that's what we already pretty much proved when we set it all down. We didn't just think about it overnight. I mean, we started back in August, September, October, and it came up to that amount. But
I'm sorry, I thought we were talking about the reserves.
I'm talking about that too. I'd like to think that we have a year in reserve in case something catastrophic happens.
Okay, again,
Right.
the city of North Pole's budget pays for 2 things, basically, public works and public safety. Okay. Doesn't pay for schools. The borough pays for that. The library, Fifth Avenue Park, that's all borough.
That's right.
The state maintains the major roads in North Pole.
Really? No, they don't.
So the Santa Claus Lane, Rich?
We're having a dispute with them now about how it's not being maintained. That was in the meeting of the whole last month and this
Okay,
month. Yeah.
regardless.
Yeah.
It's not in your budget to maintain those because.
But we
they
have to
belong-
maintain all the other 67 roads in this city.
Right, 14 miles of roads. That's it.
But it's still expensive.
I understand.
Yes,
that.
sir. We do. And so could you see that you asked me, why do I think we should have 8 million? I'm saying, where does the difference come from? If 6.6 comes from taxes, where does the other 1.7 come from? That's what I'm
Again,
asking.
I'm going back to Mr. Jacobson's proposal last week to increase the sales tax, to put money aside for the utilities, basically.
Which I don't agree with.
I don't agree with it either, and that's what I'm here to testify about, okay?
We don't need to do that.
If you don't have enough money in reserves for repairing the city water main, increase the FR&R.
I agree. But you'd have to,
increase my sales tax
no,
to pay for water that the majority of the customers don't even live in the city. Okay, like I said, I don't have water or sewer.
I don't, you know.
Yeah,
that.
I know that.
Madam Clerk,
And he's asking me to pay more to support that service. And there's just too much crossover between the water and the city.
Ms. Fogarty, may I ask you a question? Is there any general fund money being spent on the water and sewer? Has there ever been since I was mayor?
Answer the discussion last meeting.
Well,
Mr.
that's what
Jacobson,
one person came up with.
correct, and then
Right.
everybody voted with him on that.
Not necessarily to spend on water sewer, but to have it for the future. I think it was to have it for the future. Yes, Mr. Cromer.
Do you realize that the water increases in the budget?
And not for the FRNR though. Water increases for the per gallon charge.
Yeah, but you understand what I'm trying to ask is like, that we already upping the water charge to pay for.
Right, but the facility repair and replacement charge would go to repairing the water main if it breaks. You don't have to take money, you don't have to increase sales tax money in case of the water main breaks.
But I don't know if you realize when what's his name, Mr. Jacobson proposed that we increase stuff, it was not what he said about the replacing the utility. It was a whole aspect of the police department and the fire department. We don't have
Different funds.
I know, that's what I'm saying. It was like what he said, it was not why I voted the way I did. I just want you to know that reason. It's not just because he said something about the utility thing, but I was just realizing when the police department and the fire department, when the HR and everybody was going through their stuff, everything was a little tight. So I was just like, why are we decreasing all this stuff instead of, kind of maintaining it where we are? That's how I felt. Not because what he had said, it was just because I was like, yeah, I was just thinking about other stuff that we did in our workshops. That's why I came to the conclusion of like, yeah, we do need to keep maintaining where we're at because inflation and we can't go backwards right now. I feel like when everything is skyrocketing.
Again, with inflation, you're going to automatically collect more in sales taxes because everything costs more. So if something costs $10 right now and you get, 55 cents on it, if it costs $12 now because of inflation, collecting another 11 cents.
I understand that, but for me,
You don't have to increase the rate of the tax
for me,
to collect more money.
to have a peace of mind, if I feel like us maintaining what we're having and to make sure that, the police department is fully staffed and the other departments are fully staffed and making sure that those main pockets of where we're trying to have in the budget are still there. And if we like decrease and we're behind on stuff, I feel like we're not giving the citizens what they need as far as the level of.
And all of that was already budgeted and you voted to increase the budget.
It was a second
No,
reading.
because it was
That's why we have a third reading.
Yeah, so that was the second reading because it was 5% what the mayor had proposed. It's not what the council proposed, it's what the mayor proposed. And so I already had an aspect of we should probably maintain where we're at. But the aspect of the 300, I can go back down to 200 if someone else proposes that. But I'm saying we should still maintain the 5.5%.
Well, if you do that, you might as well just maintain the $11 cap and make it easy in all the businesses.
I'm agree with that, actually.
Mrs. Welch, you have a question or comment?
David, are you aware of the fact that a lot of people come from outside and help us out with that tax?
I understand that.
Yeah.
That's-
And I think that's a major part for me, at least, for supporting a sales tax. I must say, I do not believe that we need to go up, stay at 5.5. I believe we need to be at 5. But I also see the benefit of those people who do come into our city and pay our city taxes and stuff. to receive the services that these gentlemen behind you are providing in form of fire protection and ambulances and police service and so on and so forth. That would be my reasoning for.
I agree with
for
that 100%. When I lived in Fairbanks, I always said we need a sales tax because my property taxes in Fairbanks were paying for, the 100,000 people in the borough that come into Fairbanks, paying for all of their services too. So I agree with that.
Okay.
And I'm not saying get rid of the sales tax. I never said that.
I would like to,
Saying that I don't think it should be increased. And the 1650, like you said in the last meeting, really is only going to be for online sales.
Mostly,
And that
yeah.
only affects the city residents. That doesn't affect people outside of the city. Okay? Because people aren't coming in the city and spending more than $300. Safeway is basically a giant 7-Eleven. People don't do their major shopping there because it's so expensive. And nobody else in town you're not going to spend that kind of money in any other business in town that's taxed. So that maximum is mostly for online sales. That doesn't affect the people outside of the city coming into the city.
make a good point.
And on that note, so you're saying that we're only going to collect $500,000 on online sales.
That's what I think.
Yeah,
That's
it's
my
going to be far
projection.
more than that, but whatever.
Yeah.
So
We can't be sure.
increasing the maximum from $11 to $16.50 isn't going to make much of a difference in that $500,000.
Good, but it could also have a negative effect, could it not? The
What I'm
elasticity,
saying is that everybody agrees that the majority of the money over $200 or $300 is spent online, not in the city.
only thing, okay, let me explain something. Are you aware that when we're talking about online, that the only way that we can collect an online tax is they live in the city limits? I don't know if you're aware of that.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
Okay,
That's
so
what I said. So it only affects city residents. It
city
doesn't
residents,
affect-
that's right. No
So
one
now
else.
you're saying, so basically increasing it from $11 to $16.50 isn't going to make that much of a difference in the budget. Period. Not going to affect sales within the city very much at all.
Probably not much at all,
Except
probably,
for heating fuel.
yeah, except for heating, fuel and electricity.
Right. And I would very much like to see this council vote on a amendment to make those two tax exempt.
I will,
Either that or tax the city water, city utilities. I don't see that it's fair that the city water isn't taxed, but heating and electric is.
are you aware that, you couldn't be aware of this? I don't know when you lived here, but there was a time where a mayor said no tax on heating oil for the next half year. And I was a rookie and I said, well, if you're not going to tax heating oil, why then are you going to tax electricity? Why do you take one commodity or one utility over the other? I didn't understand why. But he only did it for half a year. So basically, if he had done both at 3% sales tax, he would have saved you $96, $48 for electricity, possibly, and $48 for oil, possibly, is what he would have saved you. But it only went to oil. It never went to electricity. I don't know why. There's other things too. Are you aware that we could have a tax holiday if we saw that we had more sales tax than what was necessary? We could come up with a sales tax holiday in December as an example. It's always an option. We could also have seniors have sales tax exemptions if we wanted to. Just that it puts a burden on the retailer to do that. That's the only reason we don't do it. So there's so many different options. We need to discuss any further. You, sir. Thank you for your testimony. Appreciate it. Try to take it into consideration. So would anyone like to take a look at what we have here? Madam Clerk, can you bring up the language that we have
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Can we have a short break before we go into
Someone
this?
will make a motion to have a break.
Move to suspend the rules
Motion to suspend the rules.
for
Time-
5 minutes.
Second.
Okay, it's 12 after. Why don't we say be back in 20 after, 7 minutes. It's 12 after, be back in 20 after. Thank you.
I, just by what was said during the meeting, I thought that it was. Because of this reason, that's what.
I think there's been a few miscommunications.
Yeah.
It happens. Thank you again.
Madam Clerk, Madam Clerk, are the microphones off? Then they need to be off. When we're, huh?
You're not recording though, right? Yeah. so she's
Okay.
not recording.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that's what I mean. Hey, David, thanks for coming in, really. So that you know, what he just told you, no, you're not. I'm not worried about it. I want you to know that
Budget numbers